Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Their head coach has experience making deep playoff runs in Ime Udoka, and they have a point guard in Fred VanVleet that's 1A type. So they're not completely foreign to all of this. If you're leaning either way, take the over 5.5 games, or for a little bit more money, plus 1.5 games for the Houston Rockets. It will go at least 6.
Betting above the rim, only on
We welcome you to hour number 3, our third and final live right here on this Monday on the early line on SportsGrid. He is Donnie right side. I am Ben Stevens. One more hour to go. We preview a doubleheader of Game 2s tonight in the NBA playoffs. Game number 2 inside the Mecca in the world's most famous arena. The New York Knicks taking on the Detroit Pistons. And in maybe our most competitive Game 1 and in maybe our most competitive opening round series, Game number 2 tonight at Mile High. It's the Nuggets and the Clippers. Our thoughts on both of those games, hearing from the people about how both of those game number 2s play out in plenty of MLB previews as well on this Monday. A very early game on this Monday as well, DRS, in just over an hour inside Fenway Park. It is Marathon Day in Boston. It is Patriots Day in Beantown, and thus the early start between a pair of Soxes. The red and the white do battle today in Fenway.
Yeah, tradition out there. It should be fun to watch that play. It's a good way to start a Monday post-holiday. So most people waking up a little bit groggy, a little stomachs full from eating a lot yesterday on Easter Sunday. The perfect way to sit back and digest is with us right here on the SportsGrid Network. We'll hit those games as well. But I am looking forward to tonight to the NBA action. 2 good games and 2 competitive game number 1s where maybe we thought the opposite teams that won the game should have actually lost the game, if you will, where the Pistons should have maybe beat the Knicks and then the Clippers should have beat the Nuggets. That didn't happen. Will those roles reverse tonight? That's what we're asking the people.
DRS, it's a really good point, by the way, because in both of those game 1s, the team that ended up on the losing end seemed for a lot of the game, or at least a good portion of it, even late, that they were going to win it outright. Both teams on the road, unable to do just that. The Clippers and the Nuggets go to OT, and Denver edges out LA, 112-110 in that extra session in game number 1. Of course, as we have shared, the Knicks, a 21-zip run midway through the fourth quarter to snatch the game back from Detroit and win game number 1 inside Madison Square Garden. What resolve do we see for the teams that came up short? How much do those fourth quarter rallies inspire the teams that came out on top? Basically, our question to you as we ask, who wins the doubleheader? Put them together. Moneyline parlay tonight in game number 2 around the NBA postseason. The question to all of you in Fade the Public. Some pretty close calls in terms of the voting in the Fade the Public poll at SportsGrid on Twitter. Your 4 options, of course, Nuggets, Pistons, Nuggets, Knicks, Clippers, Pistons, Clippers, Knicks, as we look at where things stand. And DRS, most of the public, more than 32%, backing the teams at home tonight, the Nuggets and the Knicks. Only 30.5 Clippers and the Knicks, but a lot of belief perhaps in the Knicks being the better side in front of Detroit. That would follow the odds. New York, a 7-point home favorite tonight. LA, actually a slight 1.5 favorite on the road at altitude.
Hey, I would love to see both of these series go back to the respective cities 1-1, makes it more competitive, extend those series out, gives us more entertainment and more fun to talk about. But my vote actually went to the Knicks, which would be a 2-0 series lead, but to the Clippers, which would be that 1-1 heading back to Los Angeles. And that was right now is coming in at 30.5% of the votes coming in. You take a look at the Knicks and the Nuggets, 32%. And then you take a look at the Pistons and the Clippers, 24.6%. So you do have that even keel of these games should be competitive tonight and taking out of what you saw for game number one. Because, yes, you see the price point is much higher for the New York Knicks. They're favored at the Garden. They should win. But game number one wasn't so much what that final score was. It was just a complete collapse of the Detroit Pistons. So we figure they're more into the series than, let's just say, a 7-point dog or so for tonight's action. And the same thing with the Clippers. Probably should have won game number one. Didn't, went to overtime and lost that game. Maybe a bounce back is in order. So for me, I went Knicks, because I do think they're the better team over the Pistons, and they're more heavily favored. But I think the Clippers can even up that series. So slight fade, I guess, for me, at only 30% of the votes coming in. I went that direction.
DRS, I went with the second or the third most selected option, that being the Pistons and the Clippers. More so just because I hope that with my plus 2.5 games bet on the Pistons that they can get this to 6, stealing one on the road, having a golden opportunity to do so in the opening game of the set would certainly help in doing just that. But again, it makes a lot of sense from the odds perspective. The Clippers are a slight favorite for game number 2, just so to get a lot of that love from the public voting. The Pistons are still a 7-point road underdog in game number 2. That is the question, though, Donnie. It's really what it comes down to. Yeah. What do the Pistons believe after coughing up an opportunity to win game number 1? Are they looking at it glass half full? Hey, we had a lead at the end of 3 quarters. Hey, we had an 8-point lead in the 4th quarter inside Madison Square Garden against this Knicks team. Or will the lasting thought of coughing and stumbling down the stretch as they watch that lead evaporate on a 21-0 run? Not even like the Knicks kind of fought their way back over the good majority of the 9 minutes that remained in regulation, but just in an instant took a double-digit lead after being down by an 8-point deficit on that 21-0 run in about 4.5 minutes. How does Detroit bounce back? What is the resolve out of a young playoff team that, because of their inexperience, I think we saw what we did in game number 1? That is the main question, DRS, but still, the odds makers backing the Knicks. 7-point spread tonight in favor of New York.
Yeah, we'll see where that line ends up by game time once the public sort of gets to hammer that later in tonight around 7 o'clock or so. That total is at 220.5, and as we talked about some of these games staying under the total, what's the ammo coming? Also understand this, too. You sort of have that feeling out process in game number 1. Game number 2 comes there, game number 3, game number 4. You're knowing just about every offensive set that these teams have, and also you're starting to ratchet up the pressure. No more nerves for the Detroit Pistons saying, hey, it's a Garden, it's a big spot, it's the playoffs. Hey, we collapsed in the 4th quarter. Maybe they learned from that environment here and can apply that tonight, because also understand this from a handicapping perspective. We're just asking the public, just based on the money line, who's going to win this game. But then again, you could still take the Pistons, lose this game, and still cover the spread. Now, granted, you entered the 4th quarter of the last game with almost a double-digit lead, getting 6 to 7.5 points. And not only did you not win the basketball game outright, you didn't even get the cover, which is a double sting right now. So we'll see how the effort is. But I expect that the Pistons are going to hang around again. This isn't going to be a first quarter of Knicks 28, Pistons 17. That's going to be hard to dig out of. You expect a spirited performance from the Pistons if they're buying in tonight, enough to send this 1-1 back to Detroit. And again, the Clippers and the Nuggets, that just explains itself. 2 veteran-laden teams, one team recently removed from a championship, one team saying we're healthy, we can finally get there. And also understand this, you might have a referendum series with the Clippers here, Ben. We talk about players getting traded away. Just to say the Clippers are healthy and this doesn't work out. Are you adding more pieces, or are you just saying this just isn't going to work at this point?
Yeah, DRS, because if they're all healthy, James Harden, Kawhi Leonard, Ivica Zubac, who was great in game number 1. We need our guy Big Will, Norman Powell, to hit 3 made threes, not just 2. You have the pieces in place, if remaining healthy, to make not only a win in this opening round, but a deep playoff run around the Western Conference. Quickly on Detroit and New York here. We'll talk about this game a little bit later on, but just in comparing the odds, New York was a 6.5, 7-point favorite for game number one. They end up covering because of that dramatic fourth quarter run. Total of 220.5, Sky's over. One of two opening games that we saw go to the over this weekend. Just 2 of the 8 pushed to the over in New York and in Cleveland. Total remains the same from game 1 to game 2. 220 to hook in the opener, 220 in a hook now tonight. Despite going to overtime, DRS, at altitude on Saturday, total still stayed under 224.5, finishing 112-110. That total between the Nuggets and the Clippers tonight has dropped by 6 points, nearly 2 possessions at 218.5. Something to monitor as we see those odds shift game to game.
Yeah, maybe you should be more acclimated to the high altitude there, specifically for the Clippers being there a couple days as opposed to just one 16 to 18-hour jaunt. So I'm interested to see how they come out in the first quarter of that game as well, but I expect big things from the Clippers. You'll know a lot about the series. I don't think the Clippers come back from down 2-0 or 0-2, I should say, in the series. They need that game in Denver to get that back on their side.
We'll preview those games a little bit later on in this third and final hour. Major League Baseball breakdowns coming your way next.
Vegas knows how to celebrate. If you're headed to Vegas for your birthday, plan ahead to get all the birthday freebies the city has to offer. Just by showing your ID, you could get free cash play, scratch cards, drinks, and food at various venues on the Strip. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
Okay, what tools can you use to measure those things a bit? And that's where you have like force plates and 3D motion and you know, launch monitors, things like that. But that's all just sort of like measuring what's happening. That doesn't necessarily explain why one guy's really good and another guy's not really good. And that's where there's still kind of like this ongoing, how do you like continue to do research to understand that better? And I think that's going to last well past my lifetime.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
I'm still optimistic eventually this will happen and they'll get it together. I mean, if Florida can get their act together, Sam, with the tribes, I believe that California can too.
It would bring a lot of money to the tribe, which is also something they really care about. It's an $8 billion market. Conservatively, it could be even more when it legalizes. The sports books would be sharing revenue with the tribes, essentially doing all their operations and forking over a percentage directly to the tribes.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
King of the featherweight division for the BKFC. That is King Kai Stewart, who is joining us now, still the champion of the featherweights.
Though he did get dominated, he was still throwing big shots. He landed a lot bigger shots on Palomino than he did me, and I wasn't really impressed. Palomino's getting older. He is definitely a former GOAT. He has done amazing things in this sport, but it's just my time.
Only on SportsGrid.
We got plenty of games to preview today around Major League Baseball, an 8-game Monday slate. But DRS, it starts very early. Patriots Day in Boston, Marathon Day in Beantown. So it's always a celebration on this Monday in Boston that includes inside Fenway Park. A first pitch scheduled for just after 11 a.m. Eastern time, starting in about an hour between the Red Sox and the White Sox, ending out an extended 4-game weekend set. Boston looking to take 3 of 4 as a hefty home favorite today. Nearly a $3 money line favorite, minus 290. Total is 9. Quickly, DRS, just what do you expect in the early start to this Monday slate around Major League Baseball?
Another win for the Boston Red Sox. Cannon comes into the game only 18 and a third innings pitched this season, a 4.42 ERA, which isn't a disaster, but still not good. But an xFIP of closer to 5, he'll probably get himself into trouble. Walker Buehler's been okay to start this season, but also it's not about being okay. It's just looking at the lineup that leaves a lot to be desired for the Chicago White Sox as opposed to the Boston lineup. Now going up against Cannon today, who's a right-handed pitcher, you look at the first 6 guys anticipated in that lineup, weighted on base percentages against righties, 346, 349, 390, 326, 404, and 409. They've all done extremely well against right-handed pitching. It's a heavy price to pay here for the Boston Red Sox, but they'll win this baseball game.
The White Sox, DRS, only have 5 wins this year. Yeah, it's as bad as we expected. 5-16. 3 have come against the Red Sox. They're hoping to even up this 4-game set and look for a split today. Let's go to New York, inside Citi Field, where the Mets over the weekend swept the Cardinals in a 4-game set. The Phillies taking 2 of 3 this weekend as well. They meet up today. Battle, of course, between 2 teams we expect to contend for the NL East divisional crown this year. Philadelphia on the road, a very slight underdog, but Aaron Nola gets the start. Even money price on that money line, plus 100, minus 118 on the other side for the Amazons, who send out Tyler McGill. 8 is that total today, DRS. Up in Queens, what's the play?
Yeah, the Phillies blew a game yesterday, but also Saturday as well. Like, that bullpen has been chewed up and spit out. They hold on for an 11-10 victory, and they're up 11-4 in that game. And yesterday, a 4-1 lead against the lowly Marlins. The bullpen gives it up on a error that should have been called by Bryce Harper late in that game, but wasn't. They lose in extras yesterday. Now they head to New York. Now, if you're looking at old school numbers, like ERA-wise, they don't like Aaron Nola, but new school numbers and analytics, Aaron Nola isn't that bad. Case in point, Tyler McGill, 19 innings pitched this season, a 140 ERA, which is fantastic, and a 340 xFIP number, which is decent as well. Aaron Nola comes in at 21 2/3 innings pitched. His ERA close to 7, but his analytical number right next to Tyler McGill. So that should be interesting to find out. So for me, I look at the price point. I'm probably going to lean more towards the New York Mets, even though I'm cheering for the Phillies. Just don't like what I saw the past 2 days out of that bullpen, and maybe it is a close game late. Are you still going to trust that Phillies bullpen to get it done on the road? Right now, it looks like Francisco Lindor waking up. Juan Soto's there. Pete Alonso. Aaron Nola needs to reach back and give him one of those Aaron Nola starts that we know he has in him for the Philadelphia Phillies. But again, just based on the bullpen and what I saw this weekend, Mets playing better baseball. Going to give the nod to the Metropolitans today at home up there at Citi Field.
Big weekend for Francisco Lindor. 2 home runs in the 4-game set in the 4-game sweep over St. Louis, and RBI in 3 of those 4 games. Speaking of the Redbirds, they stay on the road against an NL East foe. They take on the Atlanta Braves today. DRS, Atlanta, after the 0-7 start and a slow start extended this year, needs weekends like it just had against the Twins, who are off to a dismal and disappointing start this year. Minnesota now 7-15 after getting swept in Atlanta this weekend. The Braves needed that sweep, and they got it. Spencer Schwellenbach looking to bounce back after his worst start of the year last week. In Atlanta, a pretty hefty favorite with that idea in place. Minus 188 for the Braves at home. Total stands at 8.5 between the Redbirds and the Braves. What's the play today in the A?
Yeah, the Atlanta Braves certainly should be able to snap back once again at the plate. Heavy favorites in this game. They should be. You take a look at Eric Fetty on the mound, comes into this game, 4 starts on the season, 21 innings pitched, a 3.43 ERA, which is decent. But look at that xFIP number, 5.50. That means not enough strikeouts here, too many fly balls, too many walks, traffic on the bases. That could be an issue. You look at the first couple guys in the lineup. As a matter of fact, 1 through 6 in the lineup anticipated today for the Braves. That's Verdugo, Riley, Ozuna, Olsen, Albies, and Murphy. Each one of those guys high weighted on base percentages here. So you should think that they should hit Fetty tonight and should come away with a victory. And yes, I expect Schwellenbach to bounce back. Even with that bad start, still an ERA of 2.55 and an xFIP of 3.03. Better lineup for the Braves as it presents itself. Better pitcher on the mound for the Atlanta Braves. That should be a victory for them down in the Big A.
Yeah, it really should be, DRS. And if the Braves can go on a 4-game win streak, starting to find their way, maybe, just maybe, out of the cellar in the National League East. Right now, 8-13, a half game behind the Nationals for the worst record in that division. The San Diego Padres, avoiding a sweep in Houston last night, stay on the road. They head to the Motor City to take on the Tigers, who won 3 of 4 in a 4-game set this weekend against their divisional mates in Kansas City. had a lead late yesterday at home against the Royals, looking for that sweep. KC responded, equalizing in the 8th, sending it to extras, and the Royals avoided that 4-game sweep in 10 innings against Detroit. The Tigers a favorite today, though, at home to take the opener against San Diego. What do you like today in the Motor City?
Yeah, Carter Montero, by the way, the lowest xFIP on the card. Now, granted, he only has 5 innings pitched, but get this. His xFIP is 2.45. His ERA, Ben? 9. So some of those analytics versus ERA at this early in the season sort of get discombobulated again when you take a look at so limited innings here. But also, having said that, you take a look at the lineup today for the Padres. Hasn't hit right into pitching all that well outside of Tatis, Machado, Sheets, and Bogarts. The rest of that lineup, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. He's got to do a little bit more damage than what they've been doing. But how about this? Here's another interesting one with Randy Vasquez. He actually has 20 2/3 innings pitched on the season, Ben. A 1.74 ERA. His xFIP, the worst on the card, 6.31. So you figure he's just getting absolutely lucky. Not enough strikeouts, too many fly balls, too many walks. Sooner than later, it's going to catch up, and there's some pretty good batters in the lineup for Detroit that may be able to mount a spot here. So when most people say, wait a second, San Diego's so good on the road, keep in mind also that Sunday night baseball game on the road where you got to travel on the road. You're playing in cooler temperatures here when San Diego's used to playing in warmer temperatures. It makes sense for Detroit. I don't know if I trust their pitcher, but I'm going to say, like, Vasquez with that high xFIP, Detroit, maybe a team total should be in the works for you today, or at least some batting props from their perspective.
Yeah, game total in full in Detroit is at 8. A few more MLB games to preview on this Monday. Up next.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Their head coach has experience making deep playoff runs in Ime Udoka, and they have a point guard in Fred VanVleet that's 1A type. So they're not completely foreign to all of this. If you're leaning either way, take the over 5.5 games, or for a little bit more money, plus 1.5 games for the Houston Rockets. It will go at least 6.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
Live right here on the early line on this Monday morning. He is Donnie right side. I am Ben Stevens. Still plenty of games to preview around MLB on this Monday. In Cleveland, an ALCS rematch from a postseason ago between the Guardians and the Yankees. New York enters today, a slight road favorite. They had a great weekend down in Tampa, winning 3 of 4 against the Rays. Minus 122, the price to back the Pinstripes today as a road favorite in Cleveland. Total at 8.5. The Guardians, a weekend sweep over the Pirates. DRS, Cleveland started 3-6. Pretty poor beginning to this season. They've won 9 of their last 12. They're above 500 once again in the American League Central. What do you like today in the ALCS rematch in Cleveland?
Yeah, Quan always seems like he's like a must bet each and every night. And yesterday, hitting a home run as well at a pretty good price point. But this game doesn't have 2 good pitchers in it, which is good. That's why we like offense, but also 63-degree temperatures. It is on the cooler side, but how about a wind blowing out to right field at double digits, which always helps. Now, granted, would help much more if that was in the Bronx at that short porch, but it's not. More pitcher-friendly Cleveland. But if we are looking at the 2 pitchers, only 1 start here on the season for Clark Schmidt, 5 2/3 innings pitching, ERA of close to 5, and the xFIP number of 5.67. But again, it's hard to extrapolate what those numbers actually are. 4 starts out of Gavin Williams and close to 20 innings pitched. He's also at a 4.5 ERA and a 4.34 xFIP number. You look at that Yankees lineup, which is so talented from top to bottom. Ben Rice at the top of the order, 326 ISO power number against right-handed pitching. We know what Aaron Judge can do. Bellinger and Goldschmidt, even though Goldschmidt's having a decent season, hasn't hit right-handed pitching all that well. Chisholm, Volpe, Wells, Grisham might be enough to overwhelm the starting pitcher in Gavin Williams. But if we take a look at the Cleveland batters going up against Clark Schmidt, you should get some damage done. And also, I love Cleveland, the versatility of that offense, because look at what we're expecting today. Right-handed pitchers, you want to stack as many lefties as you can get. Quan, lefty. Ramirez, lefty. Manzardo, lefty. Santana, lefty. Jones, lefty. Naylor, lefty. Rocchio, lefty. Like, you might have 7 of 9 batters today that can flip the switch and go to the opposite side and bat against Clark Schmidt, where he's had some trouble against lefties today. So for my money, why not just look for a total in this game between both of these teams? 9 runs seems like a possibility. Both of these pitchers should be able to get hit today.
Yeah, Schmidt made his season debut last week in 2025, was pretty good last year in 2024 for the New York Yankees. Pretty solid pitching matchup as well in Houston. The Astros will send out Hunter Brown, who has been great. Back-to-back shutout performances with 6 innings of work, a 1.50 ERA. As the Astros host the Blue Jays, Toronto sends out Kevin Gausman. A total of 7.5 today in H-Town. Donnie, as we look at a pretty short money line price, what are we seeing today in H-Town?
Yeah, tough loss last night for Houston, but I do think a bounce back is in order. Hunter Brown, one of my favorite young pitchers in baseball, 24 2/3 innings pitched through 4 starts this season. And we take a look at him at a 1.50 ERA and an xFIP number of 3.02, so it certainly does check out. But you are taking a look at those Houston bats, which aren't fantastic when you're looking to back up the Altuve average season, Isaac Paredes average season, Alvarez hasn't popped yet, and again, the 6, 7, 8, 9, even the 5 batters haven't done all that much. And under probably happens today, the 7.5 number, but I still do look for Houston. I think the better pitchers on the mound, even though the veteran Gausman is there, under in this game, lean towards Houston. How about that?
Yeah, Hunter Brown has been really, really good this year. 2-1 with that 1.50 ERA. DRS has not allowed more than 2 earned runs in any of the 4 starts he has made this year for the Astros. Houston looking to get their way back. They did win the weekend despite not being able to complete the sweep last night against the San Diego Padres. But the Stros still a game sub 500 at 10-11. Meanwhile, for the Toronto Blue Jays, they're 2 games above 500, 12-10. They trail the Yankees by 2 games in the race for the top spot in the American League East. The only 2 games of our 8 on this Monday around the bigs we have not highlighted. Our final one in San Francisco, the Giants and the Brewers. San Fran a slight money line favorite at home at -138. In the Reds, after scoring 24 runs, take their talents to South Beach to take on the Marlins. Cincy a slight favorite in Miami. DRS, a thought on either of those final 2 games to round out our Monday docket?
Yeah, the Cincinnati-Miami game is interesting to me because Cincinnati comes in as a favorite. We always love, like, hey, offensive explosion yesterday. We talked about 49 stats in that game, which was 24 runs and 25 hits, which is incredible, including a 15 for 25 runners in scoring position number. Now you take a look at the 8 there. It's a pure pitcher's ballpark, but also 2 pitchers coming in. Max Meyer, 4 starts, 24 innings pitched here for the Marlins. How about an ERA of 2.63 and an xFIP of 2.92? That checks out. Then you take a look at Lodolo on the opposite side, a low ERA of 2.31 and a slightly higher xFIP of 4.14. Even though we scored that many runs yesterday, and even Miami busted out with 7 against the Phillies, I think this game probably plays more towards an under based on that ballpark and the 2 lineups for these 2 pitchers.
A doubleheader of game 2s in the NBA playoffs up next.
Vegas knows how to celebrate. If you're headed to Vegas for your birthday, plan ahead to get all the birthday freebies the city has to offer. Just by showing your ID, you could get free cash play, scratch cards, drinks, and food at various venues on the Strip. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
Okay, what tools can you use to measure those things a bit? And that's where you have like force plates and 3D motion and launch monitors, things like that. But that's all just sort of like measuring what's happening. That doesn't necessarily explain why one guy's really good and another guy's not really good. And that's where there's still kind of like this ongoing, how do you like continue to do research to understand that better? And I think that's going to last well past my lifetime.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
I'm still optimistic eventually this will happen and they'll get it together. I mean, if Florida can get their act together, Sam, with the tribes, I believe that California can too.
It would bring a lot of money to the tribes, which is also something they really care about. It's an $8 billion market. Conservatively, it could be even more when it legalizes. The sports books would be sharing revenue with the tribes, essentially doing all their operations and forking over a percentage directly to the tribes.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
King of the featherweight division for the BKFC, that is King Kai Stewart, who is joining us now, still the champion of the featherweights.
Though he did get dominated, he was still throwing big shots. He landed a lot bigger shots on Palomino than he did me, and I wasn't really impressed. Palomino's getting older. He is definitely a former GOAT. He has done amazing things in this sport, but it's just my time.
Only on SportsGrid.
Two game number twos on this Monday night in the NBA playoffs in two great spots between two dramatic game ones in each of these two opening round series. DRS, we start inside the world's most famous arena, Madison Square Garden, for game number two between the New York Knicks and the Detroit Pistons. As we have shared a multitude of times here in game number one, the Pistons led by 8 early in the fourth quarter, 9:16 remaining before the New York Knicks started a 21-0 run to take a double-digit lead with about 4.5 minutes remaining in regulation. Just like that, the lead the Pistons had built up had vanish. A team that really did not have a lot of playoff experience saw that lead vanish right in front of them. How does Detroit respond? How can New York continue the momentum it found in that fourth quarter of our opening game on Saturday night? 7-point spread in favor of the Knicks, total at 220.5. Same total live right now on the FanDuel Sportsbook for that closing number we saw in game number one. In fact, DRS, game to game, despite New York winning in dramatic fashion, the odds really have remained the same. What do we see tonight inside MSG?
We're hoping for a bounce back for the Pistons, right? So we get a good extended series, but it's also going to be the make of that team and how their coach gets them prepared to play in this game, because understanding the way you lose sometimes is worse than just taking the loss itself. You know, it just didn't have it, lost by 25 points. Let's see if he can rebound and get back under it. You should have won game number one. So the psychology coming into the first quarter, you think Detroit is going to want to start fast and say, you know what, there is no hangover. We're going to be here about business. Or is it the New York Knicks that say, boy, we didn't play all that well over the first three quarters. We finally found our groove defensively and offensively in the fourth quarter. Let's extend that into the first half here and not give the Detroit Pistons any life here to think that they can actually come back into the series, and we'll take that 2-0 series lead back to take on the Pistons in Detroit. Having said that, there's 2 points I look at, because you know me in game number one, I really liked Jalen Brunson to go over the 27.5 points. He hit that, goes for 30 again. Hot players here staying on the mark, because I don't think this game is going to slow down per se. And Brunson, the only reason why I only scored 30, low 30s, he started really slow in that game. If he was cooking early, you might have been looking at a 40-plus point effort for him. So I expect to come back at a 28.5 number. It's minus 102 right now in the FanDuel Sportsbook from the opposite side. Like Tobias Harris had a great performance in game number one. He's going to need to step up in a similar fashion. He goes mid-20s game number one. Now you see him at 15.5 at a plus 104 price. they're sticking that there's like a buyer beware. But I got to tell you, I'm back in on Tobias Harris tonight. I love good performances in game-to-game basis because I'm always under the belief that professional athletes aren't like, whew, got a good game here. Let me in game number 2 not press my luck down. They knew you're always going to take more shots and continue that hot hand in game number 2. So 2-player prospects for me, Brunson as well as Tobias Harris. But in this game, the 7 points, I got to tell you, I sort of feel the Pistons again. Like, I think they can rebound from that performance and say, guys, we were the better team until we fell into a 21-0 hole. We can hang around and at least get the cover of around 7 points here.
Yeah, DRS, I think it's a great point. And again, had you just backed the Pistons getting points in game number 1, not only did you see Detroit lose outright, they did not even cover, losing that game by 11. One of our 2 overs of our 8 opening games in the opening round of the NBA playoffs inside MSG on Saturday because of that dramatic Knicks rally. Let's talk a couple of those player props. To your point, DRS, 28.5, the highest number tonight from a points perspective for New York's Jalen Brunson. He had 34, a big part of that run and that spurt for New York in the fourth quarter. But we remember Jalen Brunson last postseason as well. Not just the amount of points that he scored. He had at least 29 in 8 of the 13 games New York played in its 2 series last postseason, but just the absolute volume that would allow him to get 30, 35, 40 plus points. We saw that in game number 1 as well. JY mentioned earlier the response for Karl Anthony Towns. 23.5 is his points prop. DRS for me, despite posting a double-double in game number 1, the first playoff game of his NBA career, I think Cade Cunningham needs to be better tonight for Detroit if they are going to steal game 2 on the road inside Madison Square Garden. 21 points, 12 dimes in game number 1, but just 8 of 21 from the floor and 1 of 4 from beyond the arc. 27.5. The points prop tonight for Cade. If he can get over that, that's to me how Detroit wins this game on the road.
Yeah, and you take a look at the made player 3-point shots here on the FanDuel Sportsbook. I was talking about Brunson, over 2.5 3-point shots made. Not really an indicator of his game because he doesn't shoot them with volume, but he does shoot daggers. But I think your correlation, Ben, does make a lot of sense here. If you're saying, if Cade Cunningham is going to get 30 points tonight, what are the chances he does it without making 2 3-point shots? And it's a doable number. Over 1.5 at a minus 130 price point. If you think he's going to have a good game, he better knock down a couple daggers from 3-point range. So I think that one adds up. Looks like a decent 3-point market tonight as well. Karl Anthony Towns over 1.5 at a plus 108 number. Like, I don't know if we're getting a ton of points tonight, but I don't think we're going to get a game that's 95 to 85 like we saw with the Golden State Warriors and the Houston Rockets. I think the 3-point shots will go down, and also a correlation from a guy like Cade Cunningham, I think makes some sense.
Malik Beasley, who had 6 triples for Detroit off the bench in game number 1 on Saturday. His number 3.5, the over a hefty amount of juice at minus 144. Our nightcap tonight at altitude, it's the Denver Nuggets and the LA Clippers. Of course, DRS, a great game in game number 1, an overtime thriller in the opening game on Saturday in Mile High. Denver edging out LA 112-110, winning in overtime. A total of 224, and the hook stays under. The Clippers did squander an early lead, but did cover as a 3.5-point road dog. Never did we see the advantage on either side get the double digits in the second half. We expected this series to perhaps be the most competitive of any of them around the association in round number 1 of the playoffs. And Donnie, tonight, 18 cents of difference. But the favored number in favor of the road team, that would be the LA Clippers. Total stands at 218 and a hook, minus 118, the money line number for the Clippers. How close will this game be in game number 2 at altitude?
Could be just as close as that point spread right now, within a bucket or two, just like we saw that overtime game just a few nights ago. I'm looking for a bounce-back performance for the Clippers where it's a loss that you expected to get, but it wasn't a devastating loss like we blew a 10-point lead with 6 or 5 minutes to go in this game. It was nip and tuck all the way through, and I expect the Stars to have a bounce-back performance. So if we're looking at the total itself, 218, I actually still lean towards the over in that, and so that buy down here, how low can that possibly go towards game time? If I'm looking at the Clippers minus 1.5, you can't go down 0-2. They understand that, but I do think their superstars in kind will step up. You take a look at the FanDuel Sportsbook on some of the numbers that are posted back. Kawhi Leonard, 24.5 points. James Harden, 23.5 points. Ivica Zubac, 17.5 points. If I had to go and say, you know what? What's one player you expect to say, this is a game that I absolutely have to have? It's Kawhi Leonard for me. Step it up here. 24.5. I'll go over the total there. I need 25 plus points from my superstar player here. James Harden, he can get to the mid-20s as well, but I need Kawhi to step up. This is the game that he must provide. I'm the superstar. I've won a championship before. We're down 0-1 in the series. We can't go down 0-2. Give me the rock.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you looked at it, DRS, in game number one, they got a lot of production, did L.A. They had James Harden. They had Kawhi Leonard. Ivica Zubac at 21 and 13. Nearly a triple-double for Nikola Jokic. 29 points, 12 boards, and 9 dimes. Of course, he's going to approach that number always. Keep an eye on Zubac. Once again, the rebounding prop tonight for the big man for LA stands currently at 12 and a half. And Donnie, much like we saw in game one, that was fascinating. The Clippers were the slight series outright favorite, and yet Denver was favored to win game number one. They did. The Nuggets now a slight series outright favorite, but the Clippers a favorite to win game number two. We expect this series, maybe above all else, to shift each and every time we see a game, each and every day in between. That's what the odds makers are anticipating ahead of game two tonight.
Yeah, exciting too. And this should be a long series. We might even be able to go to 7. It's just that from a Clippers perspective, boy, you want to get one of these first 2 games in Denver so you can sort of turn the tide and say, we'll sweep you in LA. It doesn't matter about elevation as long as you take care of business in game number 6 when we get back that far. I'm interested to see how they play out. But again, this game is built on superstars. I don't expect Kawhi Leonard to shoot the ball 9 times tonight. I'm expecting 15, 16 shots here and also a couple free throws. Give me the over. Let's go.
More of the prop perspective for the NBA playoffs next.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're gonna go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's gonna help me get the job done. There is not gonna be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Their head coach has experience making deep playoff runs in Ime Udoka, and they have a point guard in Fred VanVleet that's 1A type. So they're not completely foreign to all of this. If you're leaning either way, take the over 5.5 games, or for a little bit more money, plus 1.5 games for the Houston Rockets. It will go at least 6.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
The prop perspective to start off a new week, entering the second games around the NBA playoffs, even a couple of game 2s tonight in the Stanley Cup postseason as well, and some Major League Baseball on a Monday. So if we're doing all of that, that means the jack of all trades is here. It is TV Tom Vecchio of SportsGrid, live right here on the early line. Vecchio, as always, hope the weekend was great. Thanks for being here to start off this new week on TEL.
Thanks for having me. Weekend was great. We saw some great NBA action outside of the Thunder. I love seeing low-scoring games in the playoffs. A lot of people don't like seeing it. I thought the Warriors game last night was awesome. I don't want to see games end 130 to 125. If you want to see that, go watch the Hornets and the Wizards in the middle of December. It's the middle of April. We want to see the best basketball. Let's get to it.
Absolutely, Vecchio. That's playoff basketball. Defense wins championships, or so I have been told. So let's focus on our 2 game 2s that we have tonight. We start inside Madison Square Garden. It's the Knicks and the Pistons. Vecchio, as we've been laying it out, the theme for game 2 is the resolve, really, for both sides. Detroit from the crushing 21-0 run that New York went on in the fourth quarter. The Knicks now playing a great game in full, trying to use that momentum. How do they respond in game number 2? 7-point spread in favor of the Knicks. Very close to what the number was for game number 1. 220.5 now is that over-under. Same total as the opening game on Saturday. So then what do we see in game number 2?
Well, something that was backing the Pistons in game 1 at +7, I thought it was looking good for a while. That all came crashing down. And ultimately, I really like the under in this game. And this has to be a correction on the Pistons side of things. Not just from them, but from the game environment overall. The Knicks took 93 field goal attempts. The Pistons were up at 86. The Knicks were over 50% from the field. The Pistons were just under 50%. Both teams right above and right below 40% from 3. Way too much offense. And frankly, those 21 points pushes the game over, not just by themselves, but in order for the Pistons to eliminate or prevent that from happening again, it's like, okay, we need to control things. We are a young team. We saw that happen in game 1. We need to learn from those mistakes and reel things in, control the ball, give it to Cade Cunningham, slow the offense down, and that will just eliminate possessions overall. So I do like how the Pistons played, let's call it 90% of the game, 80% of the game, whatever you want to say. Yeah. And they just need to learn from those mistakes and have those adjustments game to game. And I think that will kind of prevent the game from being pushed over. So I like under 221.5.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see the psychology there that the Pistons have coming right out of the gate in that first quarter after letting that game slip away in the fourth quarter. Or the Knicks, hey, this is our home court advantage. We came back. We didn't play all that well. Fourth quarter closed out. We sort of extend that lead in the first quarter to not give the Pistons any hope. We'll find out how that one plays out. I'll tell you one game that has a lot of hope for the rest of the series and a long series. That's game number 2 tonight. That's the Clippers and the Nuggets at 10 p.m. Eastern. A -1.5 point favorite here, Tom, for the Clippers and a total of 217.5. So another low total that we're listing here in elevation. The Clippers and the Nuggets. Is it even before they're leaving, or is it a 2-0 series lead for the Nuggets?
It's even before they're leaving. And as you guys were talking about in the previous segment, this is just a spot for the Clippers to bounce back. They didn't play terribly at all. I would expect a bounce back game from Kawhi, Donnie, as you were alluding to in the last segment. It just has to be a well-rounded effort. And again, they didn't blow a lead. I want to say they kind of got away with one. They maybe lost it with the Westbrook 3, whatever it might be. But they're a balanced team. They're head-to-head. There's a coin flip game between them and the Nuggets. So I'm on their money line already, just to be clear. I am on the Clippers. I have this series going over 5.5 games. I don't know who wins it, but it's going to be a long series. This is not going to be a 4-1 or 4-0 series by any means. Just take the Clippers. They even it up. Then we can look at game 3 once they're back in L.A.
Yeah. Overtime in game number 1. Never a double-digit lead on either side for the entirety of our third and fourth quarters or into the extra portion following regulation. We expect this series to be tight. It's what we saw in game 1. It's probably what we are going to see tonight in game number 2. Vecchio, we'll get to the ice in just a matter of moments, but 8 games today around Major League Baseball. Let's start for a matchup, a rematch of last year's ALCS. The Yankees and the Guardians today in Cleveland. The Yanks take 3 of 4 over the weekend in Tampa. Cleveland sweeping the Pirates. They've won 9 of their last 12. What's your play today for the matchup in the land between the Pinstripes and the Guardians?
Let's go to the Yankee side of things. Clark Schmidt is on the mound for them, but let's take him under 4.5 strikeouts. He only made his first start of the season last week, and last year was a solid 26% strikeout rate, but Cleveland has always been disciplined at the plate. They come with a 20.3% strikeout rate versus righties. That's in the top 10 of the league for the lowest. They have a 9.2% walk rate. They have a 106 WRC+. They put the ball in play. They don't waste chances at the plate, and Clark Schmidt's not going to have a super long leash that's going to allow him to go out there and rack up 6-7 strikeouts. That's just not where I see things going, especially considering where the Yankees are in the standings and the fact that they're playing on so many so many games in a row, I think Clark Schmidt, they're not going to put him out there, despite what people think that, they had this long series against the Rays. No, they actually need Clark Schmidt to be healthy, not just today, but for the rest of the season. So I see him having a very limited role overall, and it was a slow start to the strikeouts. Granted, 5.2 innings in his first outing and an 8.7% strikeout rate is not going to sustain that low, but he's also not going to jump back up to 30%.
Yes. Maybe get some runs there in Cleveland today. Wind blowing out to right field. We'll see if that makes a difference. Low 60-degree temperatures. Having some fun there. But I tell you where it's colder, inside the arenas of the NHL. 4 games on tap tonight. 7 o'clock, 7:30, 9:30, and 10 o'clock spread out across the board. Any looks, Tom, tonight on the ice for us?
Let's get started with the early game, and that's going to be the Capitals Canadians over 5.5. It was minus 130 yesterday. Really do like this spot. And we've seen a bit of scoring in a lot of these games early, whether it was Winnipeg and St. Louis. We saw scoring between the Leafs and the Sens last night. I expect the Caps to win this game. Call it 4-2, maybe 5-2. Maybe that empty netter pushes things through. But I think we will be cruising towards the over for the majority of the game. And then we're going to see a point of resistance. If we do see it move to 6.5 from 5.5 for the next game, it may be 6.5, minus 140 on the under. That's the spot I'll initially be looking, because I think that's where we should be seeing a little bit of scoring early, and then things come back to the norm, and then we'll start to see a lot of unders.
4 of our 5 games to start off the Stanley Cup postseason this weekend saw at least 6 goals. Only one had 5, and that means there was a ton of scoring there as well. Vecchio and I will look at the quadruple header of Stanley Cup playoff games on this Monday, but we got to send Donnie now to the money line. DRS, have a wonderful time on the money line. We'll talk tomorrow here on TEL. Vecchio and I round out the show with a focus on the ice. Up next.
They're so close that we're barely going to be getting any value on the plus side of things. I think there's a little bit of value on the Blue Jays today, but it's an awesome division. I don't want to see teams running away and be up by 12 games in first place. We want to see teams constantly battling for first place.
They hit a team total. I love that. So as many times as we get bad beats, you do get the same amount of good beats, typically in your direction, if you wait long enough.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
You're talking about going into next year, your 4th coach in 4 years. And if you think about it, they were 2-0 NBA Finals, and literally the whole organization just fell off.
I don't really understand what the plan is, right? Okay, you fire Budenholzer. What is the plan? Who do you think you're bringing in? What do you think is going to change? We all know the sort of dire financial situation they find themselves in as far as money spent.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
11 times now without a major, 14 times at the Masters. He finally has the green jacket. Rory McIlroy.
The best sporting event so far this year. It's better than the Super Bowl. It was better than the NCAA tournament. It had ups and downs. It had roller coaster rides. It had history, legacies. It had everything you could ever possibly want.
Pharrell, Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
The 2 guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take.
Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What?
How do you do this one?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
We round out our 3 hours together here on this Monday on the Early Line on SportsGrid with TV Tom Vecchio of SportsGrid, looking at our quadruple header of Stanley Cup playoff action on the ice on this Monday. Vecchio, what really stands out is the fact the Stanley Cup postseason also began on Saturday, but just with 2 games, and then we saw 3 games on Sunday, And tonight we have 4 games, 2 of which are the opening games of a set, and the other 2 are already game number 2. Vecchio, as the hockey guy, how do we make sense of the Stanley Cup playoff schedule?
I hate it. I hate it. It should have started Saturday, and it should have been 12, 3, 7, 10 for 4 games on Saturday. Do that same thing on Sunday, roughly thereabout. And then maybe then you go to 3 games on Monday, 3 games on Tuesday, whatever it might be, add in the travel days after that. And then we're at this, even cadence where we don't have Tampa and Florida are starting tomorrow on game 1 when we're going to have game 2s wrapped up. I don't like it. Started on Saturday, 4 games on Saturday. You have the time to do so with essentially 12 hours, the same way the NBA does. I don't like it.
Yeah, it's very, very strange. There is a game 1 still tomorrow, even after 2 of our game 2s will be in the books as of this Monday night. But anyway, Vecchio, let's look at the games that we have today. In our last segment with Donnie, you mentioned the Caps and that game pushing to the over. Caps and Canadiens over 5.5. Might Alexander Ovechkin, after making history with his goal scoring, continue that into the postseason? Of the other 3 games, Vecchio, what's your favorite play on this Monday?
It's got to be the Blues and the Jets, and let's just call it regression to the mean. And, a lot of people like to talk about like the zigzag, and especially in the playoffs, one game goes over, the next game goes under. One, the underdog wins, then the favorite's going to win the next game. 5.5, under 5.5 for Winnipeg and St. Louis. It is minus 144. I saw it at minus 135 at some point yesterday on in-game live. Way too many goals being scored, and the goals increase the variance, and especially when we have great goaltenders on both sides. With Jordan Binnington for the Blues, kind of Hellebuck for the Jets, that's just not the style that they want to play or have played really at any point this season, turning these games into 5-3 outcomes. The Blues could very well win this game, but increasing the back and forth nature and trying to win a game 5-4 or 5-3 is really not the route that they want to go about things. So I expect the goaltenders to return to form. Obviously, just the opening excitement of all games causes things to go over.
Yeah, Jets won that game 5-3 up in Winnipeg, of course, trying to avoid the President's Trophy curse. You would expect with Connor Hellebuck in net, a lower scoring game, and yet Winnipeg a minus 530 favorite, not only or a hefty favorite tonight, but minus 530 to win the series. The Avs won game 1 against the Stars 5-1. Vecchio, Colorado, greater than a $3 favorite to win this series outright. Those are both game 2s. Our other Western Conference series beginning tonight is game number 1. Now, Vecchio, the Oilers are a favorite to win the series over the Kings, around a minus 132 price in terms of that outright number. But tonight, as you see, the Kings with home ice advantage, a minus 125 favorite. Total is 5.5. How do you make sense of the disparity? Edmonton, the series favorite, but the Kings favorite on home ice for the opening game.
Home ice will give them, that slight favorite in game 1, as you would expect, but a lot of people, and I assume the public money, would be going towards the Oilers at a certain point. But the Kings are winning this series, and it's going to take them 6 or 7 games, but they're going to get some revenge after losing to the Oilers multiple seasons in a row in the first round. The Kings will get through. They have a great team. I'm not going to say they have a superstar like they have with McDavid and Draisaitl on the other side, but the depth that the Kings have, combined with the injuries that the Oilers are dealing with, I think will put the Kings ahead. I don't know if they win game 1, but I expect them to make very solid changes throughout the series and, again, win in 6 or 7 games. This first game probably does go over, but then I think we are in for very clear unders, not just under 5.5. I'd be willing to take some under 4.5 at some point.
Yeah, Vecchio, to your point, by the way, the last 3 postseasons in the Stanley Cup playoffs, the Oilers have knocked out the LA Kings in the opening round. Last year in only 5 games, of course, with a ton of expectation for Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, and Edmonton. We'll see what this holds. LA a favorite in game 1. Edmonton the favorite for the series at minus 132. Tom Vecchio, it is always a pleasure breaking things down with you. By the way, we talked about it during the break. Nick Castellanos to go yard today for reasons out there, I think is a great look. Vecchio, enjoy the Monday, my friend. The jack of all trades always delivers with that proper perspective. Thanks for being here.
Of course, thanks for having me. We'll look to the Devils goalie for saves in game 2.
Ooh, I like that look, Vecchio. We'll do that tomorrow when the early line returns at 8 a.m. Eastern here on SportsGrid.